Hi, and welcome to this audio version of the Next Generation 911 FutureMakers podcast. For a full video version, go to www.NG911FutureMakers.com. This is Fletch. Thanks so much for listening. Remember to subscribe and enjoy the episode. Hey, it's Fletch. I'm Vice President of Public Safety Solutions at 911 Inform. This is the next episode in our new series, Next Generation 911 FutureMakers, Building the Leaders of Tomorrow. Hey, it's Fletch. I'm here today with Steve Martini, who's an ENP and an RPL and director of the Nashville Metro Emergency Communications Center, someone I've had the pleasure to know for probably nearly a decade now. Welcome. Thanks for being on the podcast with me today, Steve.
Thanks, Mark.
So
it's really dating me, man. You say decade.
What's that?
It really dates me when you say we've known each other for a decade.
Well, you're becoming an old man.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. Nothing like these web calls where you see your face to remind you that every day.
So you and I actually first met. I don't know if you remember this, but I was down at a center somewhere there, and you were working there as probably a supervisor. And you came up to me.
No, actually, right.
Mr. Fletcher, sir, I just want to let you know that I'm taking the ENP exam in another week or two, and I've been listening to your podcasts, and I'm doing all this stuff, and I just want to let you know that you've been a great inspiration to me. And I felt so proud that I had inspired you. And then you called me like 3 weeks later, said, I passed.
Yeah. With the amount of studying that I did, my wife felt like she could have tested and passed for it too. There was a lot of hours spent. Yeah, that was at the Hamilton County Center in Chattanooga, and I was actually just a member of the training staff there. Right, there was 4 of us, and not even a supervisor, just teaching classes and trying to help dispatchers do what they do better, and at the same time trying to make sure I knew what I needed to know to do better. And ENP was definitely one of those steps.
Well, the minute you told me that, the ENP exam had worked and you passed, is when I said, oh my God, we have got to make that test tougher.
Yeah, that's really a good point.
No, I'm really proud of you, and I was Thanks, proud to see someone so inspired and jazzed to get into this career. It did my heart real good, and we've been friends ever since.
Yeah, continuing to try to take that same effort, right? That's what you've done for so long, is motivate folks like me, other frontline public safety communications folks, and say, hey, there's a career in this. This isn't a job. This isn't somewhere you come in and sit down and answer some calls, and maybe you'll be a supervisor, and if that doesn't work out, you better go to the road because those are your only options, right? You helped open my eyes to that reality, and then having spent the last, you said 8 years or so in Tennessee, helping to reinforce that, right? Put other folks in a spot where they can become leaders also, move up and see more than just the supervisor level, but the directors and directors of technology and understanding all of our resources. It's all really important. So
that's what really drove the whole series of this podcast, NG911 FutureMakers. And I had an argument. I say argument, but we just kid each other, with Tracy Eldridge. And she's like, Fletch, next gen is here. There's no future. And I'm like, no. I'm talking about the next generation of 911 directors and supervisors. Now I get it. Now, of course, I came up with that right in the top of my head right then and there. I knew what I wanted, but I didn't know how to vocalize it. But that's what it's all about. Taking people like yourself and inspiring them to become what you can be, but also making sure that you've got the tools, the technology, and the fortitude to plant and grow that next generation. Otherwise, we're going to be out of a job and there ain't going to be anybody there.
Absolutely. Right. I want to retire. I love hearing when people do retire. It gives me hope that it happens, right? I say, wow, this is something I can work toward. Look, somebody did it. So, and when I do, I want to make sure I'm leaving capable folks in my wake, right? That they're doing the same good work that we're doing while I'm here. So that's good.
So you're running the Nashville Metro Emergency Comm Center. My daughter's right over in Clarksville, and she's up in Nashville all the time. So, you keep her safe, my friend. So
we will do
between you and Jameson and everybody else I know down there, she still thinks that I'm watching her 24/7.
Probably so. We've got some great folks in Montgomery County where she is too. So I know she's under great care and a watchful eye.
So what are you doing down there to foster the next generation of leadership? We'll talk about technology in a little bit because you guys are certainly stepping into that realm. But what are you doing as the director of the center? Because that's a mission. That's a badge that you've got to carry forward. That's just as important as running that center.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We are constantly focused on continuity of operations. Where I was previously at the county south of us, we had kind of the same conversations. And honestly, it's kind of funny, Fletch, you talk about that reality when you start talking continuity and you start talking about building people up to take your place later. It landed me in a bit of a hot water run with my previous human resources office, just briefly, because there were supervisors that said, he's trying to run us out. He's trying to take our jobs, because I mentioned the need for them to train up their replacements, right? I'm not making you leave. I don't want you to leave, but eventually we all leave, right? You leave your job one way or the other, whether, with a retirement or a box or something, we all leave our jobs. And when that happens, you got to make sure there's 4 or 5 or 6 people behind you prepared to step into your shoes, right? And how do we do that? We plan for that now. So we're always focused on that effort and that conversation. Internally, we're doing that a couple of different ways. We've got, I've got about 26 folks actively taking the APCO Registered Public Safety Leader course, which is a really good course for folks who are on the fringe of supervision and saying, what does it look like next, right? What's the next spot? Or they're in a supervisory role and they need to understand that. To that same level, we've got a whole bunch of other folks studying for their ENP, right, who have sat in those manager positions or technology positions saying, I need to understand this other side a little bit better than I do. So they're studying up for their emergency non-professional certification, which is awesome. And then we're just moving folks around internally inside of our organization to say, this person here has been in, and as a matter of fact, this is coming in 2021, taking some of our folks who've been in operations manager positions for a while and moving them over into the support side of the house and training and quality assurance and understanding that side for a couple of years so they get a good kind of exposure to both sides. I'm going to give you an example of that. I'm going to talk a lot, buddy, and I'm sorry. I'll give you an example of what we're talking about. Sometimes in operations, we have a tendency to look at technology, and when I showed up even here in Nashville, we're saying things like, technology, all I hear when they talk is blah, 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 or wah, 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 and I don't understand it. And to a point inside of a culture that had been accepted, right, that technology has their piece and operations does their piece, and somewhere in the middle they meet, but I'm not sure where that comes from. We really changed that conversation to say, hey, if you don't understand what's happening in technology, or if technology doesn't understand what's happening in operations, it's just an opportunity to get up and go sit inside of their area and learn it a little better. Not to the point that you can do their job or they can do yours, but enough that you understand what part of their job they're doing to support you, and then what part of the operations job is happening to be supported. So really exposing people to a lot of different areas inside of the operation is a primary focus, man. Primary focus.
You know as well as I do, Next Generation 911 is like black and white and color TV, right? And it's a radical change for people who have been in the industry for decades doing the job with the limited tools for so long.
Sure.
You've got various problems that creep in. Some people are afraid of the new technology. Some people may have a problem adapting to the new technology that may be reality or just perceived because they really don't know.
Right.
So that's almost 2 problems in one. How do you deal with that as a center manager? Because Nashville, pretty popular center. It's a decent sized center. I've been there. You've always had a good level of technology. You've always had an excellent staff. How do you keep that staff moving forward from a technology perspective and squash the, we've done it this way for 20 years attitude?
Yeah, Yeah, that's a tough one. Honestly, I'm just a little bit obstinate, so that helps, right? We start these conversations and cross our arms and say, we're going to do this. And really, I find that when you put it in place and say, this is not an option, it's a requirement. And one of those, I'll give you an example. When I showed up here, Rapid SOS was not being utilized to its fullest capability. It was there. Some people would log into it, some people wouldn't. It was like, yeah, it's an interesting thing, but I don't know what it does for me, right? I don't see the value. Previous team that I was with, one of those persons, right, a longtime supervisor, very hesitant to any sort of technology change, was not interested in anything new as far as technology was concerned. Rapid SOS hit the floor. We taught her how to use it. She used that technology when we received a phone call from it was a wireless phase 1, right, cell phone call from a help click, right, in a major part of town, right off the interstate. So it could have been from anywhere. That Rapid SOS pinpointed it inside the dining room of a fast food restaurant, right there on the corner. And off of a half-second call of a woman saying, help, we got police to the right place. They got there. There was a domestic situation going on late at night. They were out there for 45 minutes. And we would not have known that call, right, if Rapid SOS hadn't been that resource. Man, that hesitant supervisor who was not willing, she jumped right on top of that call, right on top of that technology, told me about it and said, this is the best thing we've ever had. What an amazing product. And honestly, Mark, at that point, as soon as you find that person who is hesitant to get involved and you can hook them, I just fanned her flame. She went around the center making sure everybody knew how to use it, right? Because she saw the value in that moment, how to get the 911 call, the help to the right place without having the information she would typically get by voice. And that's the type of stuff we're doing here too, is let's get it rolling, let's get it working, let's make sure people are utilizing it. And then when we have our success stories, we need to talk about those a lot, right? Frequently and loud. So everybody knows, oh man, if I get a call like that, this can help me. Every dispatcher wants that. You don't want the technology that makes you take more keystrokes or takes longer to do, right? But as soon as you say, oh, this is going to help me, I'll be faster, I can get better, man, they're going to jump on that.
That brings in the role of your PIO pretty heavy. So you've got to have a great relationship with them. They've also got to understand that technology so they can get that message out. Do you find that difficult sometimes?
Yes, yeah, because I kind of follow a different approach for the public information officer than maybe others. We don't have a standalone PIO for our department. It's me. We didn't have one in the previous department I was with, but honestly, the previous department I was with really combined emergency communications and emergency management under one heading. So emergency management, volunteer fire, the radio network, that group, I would work with that PIO to really say the rest of our message, right? When we were talking, we said, hey, this call, what happened? EMS went out there, fire went out there. We got to changing our conversation to say, how did they get there? A phone call happened somewhere to start that process, to trigger that process to get them there. So the story from the PIO didn't start with fire responded to. The story went with 911 dispatchers received a call at, and they did this and they took this action. And that conversation, so that same message we're working through here in Nashville, that I'm working with the emergency management PIOs and the fire department PIOs to say, I don't need my own PIO. We just need to tell the whole story from the beginning of the call, not the beginning of the dispatch at the hall, right? Because that's really where it's happening. So those good relationships with PIOs, that helps kind of take the whole context.
You know, that's amazing, Stephen. I haven't heard anybody say that before, but that's one of those things where you want to just smack yourself in the forehead and go, yeah, no kidding. Why doesn't everybody do it that way? And that's why I love doing this podcast and talking to the leaders out there in this community, in this industry. You know, Jeremy DeMar, Tracy Eldridge, you, Lisa Folks, Jameson Peavyhouse. You know, the list goes on and on. That was the inspiration. I said, I know all these people. I can get an honest conversation with these people. And there is a lot of great information that if it just was shared, not necessarily between y'all, because you guys do know what you're doing. I think it's important that the public understands, because the public does not understand. They pick up that phone and they think fairy dust and magic is happening. And
honestly, they're not very wrong, right? They're not very wrong. If there's anything I learned from the E&P process, Mark, is that the myriad of steps that have to happen from the time you dial 911 to get through your local central office to the tandem and back to the right place and all that, and it takes 5-7 seconds at most, and that was on camera, right? Faster with SIP. I mean, it's so fast. All the things that have to happen to make that happen, we should just answer the phone call and go, congratulations, you made it, and just hang up, right? I mean, it's such a big deal that the 911 call made it in the first place. It's incredible.
You know, I when I had Jameson on the podcast, we were kind of going down this path, and I pulled up an audio clip from California, which was a bad refinery fire out there. And they obviously had a ring down, because the call starts with, hey, Chevron, what's going on, with the call taker. Hey, we got a fire, priority level B, gate 31. I need a second level response. And she says, okay, what does all of that mean?
Amen.
So here you got a guy who thinks he's given the information that's needed, but you've got a call taker taking that information, and that information was never presented to them as here's the info you're going to get, here's what it means. So they got the message without the secret decoder ring. That did nobody any good.
Right. And, I listened to that just at that fire call. I listened to y'all's, or watched y'all's interview there with Jameson. It was fantastic. And I recall that recording you played. And when I heard it, I thought, how many times we take this same phone call from a nurse's station, and we get deep into medical jargon, and the dispatcher has to say, I don't know what that means, right? It's information, but it's not information that's actionable for me. So we got to make sure that it's actionable information I can do something with. And so many, right? The Zone B alarm, the poor firefighters. What does that mean? We don't know. Zone B.
and that's one thing that I've been, and I promise I'm not going to get up on that soapbox, because once I get up, you might not get me off. But people were always so critical when I brought Kerry's Law into visibility.
Really?
Because Kerry's Law did not deal with location. But Kerry's Law was about access, because that's what killed Kerry. A 9-year-old girl who knew what she was supposed to do but wasn't able to. And that was and that's what Kerry's Law was about. And I used to take so much gruff, Steve. Oh, but location, location is important. But if the call doesn't get through, location doesn't matter.
Absolutely. Yeah. If your call goes to the front office there at the motel instead of to the 911 center that gets you the help, right, absolutely. And the same can be said when you're talking about location accuracy and routing the call to the right PSAP and, to the nearest cell tower and all that stuff, right? If I made my call and it goes to the neighboring county but can't get to where I need it to go, right, it's just delaying the process. Absolutely.
The problem
which is location, isn't it?
Yeah. The problem is geospatial borders don't follow murder incidents, weather, traffic accidents. They don't care where the line is.
Right. Yeah, our imaginary lines where we're at. And that speaks to that next level is what are we talking about? And technology helps us do that, is regionalizing our conversation. I don't think it's possible anymore. And I think it's not been possible for years, but really we've got to stamp our foot down and say it's not possible anymore. It's not possible to function inside of an imaginary county or city line that you can't see when you're driving your vehicle and say, this is what I'm responsible for, and I'm not working outside of it, right? And the rest of it isn't my concern. Metro Nashville and Davidson County is obviously my paycheck, but Williamson County, Rutherford County, Sumner County, Robertson County, those in the greater Middle Tennessee area, we're all doing the same job. We're all serving the same citizens who are driving over here for dinner and driving back there for home or whatnot. How do we coordinate and cooperate with each other to make sure we have a robust, redundant system that serves those people wherever they are? If they've come downtown for the night on Friday and then they're driving back home to Wilson County, I want to make sure their 911 call works no matter what, right? Their call for help goes no matter what. So we're talking about leveraging, IT solutions, whether that's a fiber ring of PRI lines that we're able to share across SIP, between our agencies that says, hey, mine's down, we lost our access to central office, but yours is up, and I can get my numbers pointed to your center, and you can pass them back to me on a dark fiber ring we put in place around the county area, and all of us are using. It's a concept we put in place for radios. We've got a great, robust regional radio system. Let's duplicate that method and the interlocal contracts that we've got for the radio system inside of the phone system, and make sure when somebody calls for help, somebody's going to answer, and that we've got to solve that problem, and we haven't yet. But and it's because we go, my county line, I don't live outside of there. Nobody ever travels outside of their county, do they? They just, when they're born and they live inside that county and they die inside that county and they never leave. That's
But it's very important to citizens, especially the ones who are named Haley. That's Haley, over in Clarksville. Works at the base.
Bravo. Yeah, understood.
But, all kidding aside, I sleep well at night knowing I got you and Jameson right around the corner down there. I swear.
That's nice of you. There's a lot of great public safety comms professionals down here doing the same thing. So.
What keeps you up at night, Steve?
Honestly, it's the Denise Amberly scenario. It's the complacent dispatcher who has all the resources and technology available to them, but relationships inside of the center cause a problem, right? Serve as a roadblock for doing the good work that says, I have everything I need to do the work, but really that's not my job. It's somebody else's, right? You're supposed to do this, and until you do your job, I'm not going to do mine. That scenario is honestly what drives me every day. And we got to make sure that our folks, as we continue to offer solutions and technology options available to our folks to what we use, that our folks are willing to lean in and use them, right? Apply those technologies in not a way that says, well, I tried to use the technology, but it didn't work on this computer the one time I tried it, or it didn't work the way that I expected it to using this browser when I opened this particular product. That you've got somebody that says, I know there's 3 ways to do this, and if I can't find the first one, I'm going to use the other 2 and get the answer. And if it's my neighbor whose job that is, and I'm not the one that took the call, I'm watching them handle the call, I see the struggle, I'm willing to lean in and help them. Not to show them up, not to make them look stupid, not to point out to the supervisor, well, they didn't know what they were. No, just to say, hey, the work needed to be done and the mission needed to be accomplished, and I could help, right? That's the type of stuff that really keeps me up. And really my primary focus that drives every day is to make sure we're creating a culture and an environment that people can feel supported, that it's okay to say, I don't know, right? That's the biggest one to me when we showed up here. It's a safe place to say, I don't know. It's just not a safe place to stay there. You can't say I don't understand and go, that means I don't have to. Nope. Say you don't understand. We will get you help. We will put training at your console. We will figure out how to help you understand. And we'll create 5 different things. If the first thing we try to help explain it doesn't do it, we'll try 4 more to help you understand it. But it's a safe place to say, I don't know, as long as you're willing to find out how to do it, right?
I always look for 1 or 2 sound bites out of every interview, and I think I just found it. It's a safe place to say, I don't know. Steve, that's brilliant. That is brilliant. That is absolutely brilliant. And it came from you on video.
Yeah, I know, right?
There's actual proof. Wow. That's just amazing, man.
Right. It's just the impact, right? You just see it too many times with folks that say, well, I didn't know what to do, but I didn't want to look stupid, so I sat there quietly. Or if you do say you don't know, somebody's going to make you pay for it, so they don't ask, right? So you wind up doing all these investigations afterwards going, if they'd have just raised a hand in this moment and a supervisor, but they didn't for a variety of reasons, right? The supervisor's only there to punish them and not to help them. The training staff doesn't really know what they're doing, or whatever that thing, or their administration will just keep people around forever because they run on a body's better than nobody concept on staffing. All these different pieces lead into that one person in that one moment when it's critical they make the right choice that they don't, right? And then they don't because they don't want to speak up and say, I need help. So we got to get over that hurdle.
Who do you answer to in your role, and what kind of support do you get from there?
Oh my gosh, I have a fantastic. I answer to the chief performance operations liaison to the city mayor's office. So there's the mayor, and inside of the mayor's staff, is this person who's over performance operations across the city, kind of your essential departments, public safety, public works, parks and rec, those types of departments. Her name's Kristen Wilson. She's fantastic. She came from Cobb County, Atlanta, Fulton area for 8 years or so, and has come into the Nashville area with her expertise. And when we're all sitting here, that she came in fall of 2019, I guess October, November, and we're all sitting around here staring at each other in 2020 going, what did we accept? What job did we accept with this tornado and pandemic and the straight line and the protests and the bombing and all that stuff? But she recognizes the importance of public safety and the role that we do and the essential work in government that we are here to support the citizens, right, and our function. She's been fantastic. She gives me all the latitude I need to deploy the solutions that we're working with, to explore some new things. I'll tell you, it's really exciting. Exciting for me. I realize if you talk to a Tyrell Morris or you talk to Office of Emergency Communications there in Washington, D.C., they're already doing this combined 911, 311 concept. But in Nashville, we're fleshing that out. We're in the early stages and seeing the real benefit of kind of sharing those roles instead of it being you over here and me over there. And we've got good support out of the mayor's office to explore those questions, to ask, what would that look like if we did this, and how can we do it better?
Yeah, no, you got people like Tyrell and Karima, and both of them have been on the podcast, and just, really some amazing stuff. Actually, Tyrell is recorded, but he's not. He's on, I think, next week. But
all right.
Some really amazing people. Just bright, innovative thinking that's a little bit outside the box. And I think Karima and Tyrell will be the first to tell you, look, I'm no technological guru at this stuff. I just know what my job is, and I know how to make it work, and I utilize the tools that I got in my tool bag to make that happen.
Right. You know what? So I heard this. I'm going to geek out on you a minute here. I've got this on my wall. I don't know if it's backwards. Hire great people and get them all caught up in their talents is what it says on my wall. And that is on your way out the office here. My office door's over there, and everybody, all the shifts, they come right down this hallway in and out of work, and they see that wall every day on the way in, on the way out. Hire great people and get them all caught up in their talents. And it's a quote I kind of pulled from that Disney Plus show, The Mandalorian. And they were talking about the making of that, talking about Jon Favreau, the director, and some of these other directors' work. And they said, how do you create something, as impressive or impactful as that series has been? And the director says about Jon Favreau, you know what he does? He just hires great people and then gets them all caught up in their talents. Man, I paused that thing and I wrote that down. I told my wife, I said, I need that. That's the best thing I've ever heard. That's the mission of every leader that I can think of, is hire great people and get them caught up in their talents. Because like Tyrell, you get into that spot and say, I'm not a technological guru, right? I have not worked every position in the PSAP. I've been a dispatcher and a trainer and a supervisor and quality assurance, but I've not worked in technology from that side or phone telephony from that side. But I know some great people who do and are passionate about it, and I can learn some from them. And then I just get out of their way, Mark. You know what I'm saying? At some point, at some point, you know your lane, you know where you're going. What do you need from me to help you get there? And then just go. And man, it's fun to work in that environment, to be surrounded by people who know their lane and do it well. Golly, it's almost, you kind of just hang on for the ride, chasing them down the hallways.
No kidding. Hang on just 1 second. Hold on.
Sure.
Hello? Yep. Okay, I'll let them know. That's Disney lawyers. We're on the phone. There's a little copyright thing they want to talk to you about.
Yeah, it's hilarious. I gave them credit. It's a great show.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's fine. No, that's great. You know what? I mean, so that's something right there that you took the time to do, and that becomes an inspirational piece, like you said, for everybody that walks through there. And, if just for that one split second, it makes somebody sit down and go, I got to do my best today like I do every day, then you've done your job there, man.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It's important
to me.
Is
Amazing. So
we talk about that pretty good bit of bring your adult to work, right? I'm pretty sure these folks are, you're raising people, you're paying house notes and car payments and all that. You're existing outside of here. All I'm asking of anybody here is bring that same adult that's making all those adult decisions at home to work. And we will trust you to make the right decision. We'll get out of your way, and you just bring that adult to work, and we'll all do this together. It's been a fun team environment.
No, I think that's really important, Steve, because you've got to foster the right environment in the workplace. Because if you don't, I think if you look back on it, and I'm no expert, but I would think that if you look back on all the little nitpicky arguments, they all come from somebody not wearing their big boy pants that day and getting a little bit of an attitude and letting a little small thing fester, and then all of a sudden it's like a big infectious disease running through your center.
Right.
And that is potentially threatening hundreds and thousands of lives if you let that continue.
Right. That is the next generation conversation right there in and of itself, Mark. And I'm a civilian guy. I've never worn a badge. I've never carried a gun or pulled a fire hose. I've never worked on the other side of the radio. I've been public safety comms my entire career. And really honestly, kind of by design, right? When I came out I was a newspaper reporter, right? So I was the enemy for a while. I used to work in media before I got into this. But I came in the law enforcement.
Don't tell anybody.
It's proven, right? It's documented somewhere in the old days when they used to put paper and ink on and sell it together. When I started with the police department there in Chattanooga, the sergeant that led me to my interview, he says, "Oh, you're a young guy. This will be great. You can do a couple of years in dispatch and then you can go to the road." And not being rude, I just asked, I said, "Why?" "Oh, so you can be an officer. You can." "All right, what does that look like?" And he gave me that. They get paid a little bit more, and it was honestly like $80 a month. More to be a police officer than a dispatcher. I said, "So wait, if I give up $80 a month, I get to be warm in the wintertime and cool in the summertime, and only people I know are going to shoot me? Is that the reality?" Okay, great. No, I'm good, buddy. I'm good. I'm going to live in comms. I think this is where my place is, right? And that message, as I've come up inside of the civilian side of things, and sometimes inside of dispatch centers, and in almost every dispatch center I've been in, at least in Tennessee, that used to be managed by patrol, we take that concept of very rigid uniform rules and haircut and style and all that stuff. You can't have a beard and all this stuff. Why can't I have a beard? Because the firefighters can't have a beard. That's stupid, right? That doesn't make any sense at all. I'm in a room with no windows. So as I've had the opportunity to lead, I don't care what color your hair is, right? I don't care how many piercings you have in your face. I don't care what color your socks are. I don't care how many tattoos you have on your hands. If you are a professional on the phone and you can help get the right help to the right place at the right time, I want to do that, right? Let's do that. Let's be winners there. I'm going to pick my lines to battle on in those moments. I'm not going to pick my lines. So we had this great, to give you an example, we had this great opportunity. We interviewed this guy. He's excited to come work for us because of the encounter he had with one of our dispatchers in the middle of the night with somebody who was drunk on their doorstep and scared him and his spouse. And he's, the way we were treated that night was so amazing that I want to work here. I want to be part of your team because of how I was treated in that call. And I said, "Hey, that person that took your call is actually here. Do you want to meet him?" And he says, "Oh, that'd be amazing, right?" And she's got 3 different colored hair, and she's got tattoos and a nose ring. And so I said, "Hey, Ashley, come here. You got to meet this guy." And there was a brief moment of just these eyes like, that can't be. Then immediately got over it because he recognized her voice and they had this conversation. He said, "I thank you so much for what you were doing." So it's those things to me that says, let's find the things that we care about. Let's discard the things we don't care about and focus on the mission. If it doesn't keep us from doing the mission, let's focus on getting the mission done. And I think that's been very helpful. So if we're able to do that, then you can sit there and have the conversation when somebody wants to be nitpicky and say, you don't go to the grocery store and say to the cashier, "Hey, I don't have to pay for all of these, do I?" You just expect you're going to buy your groceries. But we do have those conversations sometime inside of the dispatch center. "Do I have to work the whole shift? Can I leave early?" Oh, come on, right? You bring your adult to work, I'll bring my adult to work, and we'll be on the same team. So we avoid some of those nonsensy things that people don't feel like they're being picked at unnecessarily. They're ready to work, and when they're ready to work, so are we. We just jump in together, right? It's good stuff.
And you extend that out to other people. And I don't know if you remember this, but, when I had first met you that first time I was down there for some meetings, I had loved Chattanooga so much that I called home and I said, we are coming to Chattanooga for our vacation this year.
That's amazing.
Oh, okay. And we did. And I brought my wife and daughter down, and I called you and I said, is there any way I can get my daughter a tour of the center? And you gave her a tour of the center, and I've got a picture of her standing out front by the big logo, and I got her a picture of her sitting at one of the positions there. And she loves that picture because she just loves that industry. And she's now a healthcare worker at the base over there. So she's in kind of a parallel, responder industry. But she always reaches back to that picture of her sitting there. And I'm just so proud of her that she felt what I felt every day that I go to work and why it's important. Long way to get to the question, how do you get your general public to feel that same way and put their trust in you so that when it goes really well, you get the accolades that you need. When it goes really bad, they're not overly critical because they understand. And when it just goes so-so, you still get the accolades because they know that you've done the best you can. How do you get that throughout your community?
I think what you just said is absolutely critical, right? Is how do we get the buy-in from the community? And I think the reality is, present news notwithstanding, and I don't know how long these wait to air, but I'm sure there'll be some other civil protest, riot, unstableness. If the last 6 months are any rhythm, there'll be something between now and air date that we can refer to. So whatever the most recent civil unrest thing is,
insert civil unrest here.
Exactly, right. Whatever that thing is, that's the one I'm referring to. My dad always said when I was growing up that there's 10% of the extremes on either side, right? Really extreme on one side, really extreme on the other. And then there's 80% of us in the middle that are going, we're just kind of all going along to get along. And we're all pretty much willing to see the other side. It's that 80% that I'm aiming at when we talk about things. I'm not worried about the 10% that are going to blow up a YouTube comment or something that says, oh, this is the worst thing, or the people that think everything I do is the best. Honestly, I can't trust them either, right? So it's that 80% in the middle that you say, I'm just going to talk to you and as transparent as I can be, say, this is what we experienced, this is what we did about it, this is what we learned from it, and this is what we're doing later. And I've found success so far when dealing with the media as well. I have yet to have one really burn me when the media calls. And then there's kind of that statement says you have to fear them. I don't really, and maybe that comes from a couple of years working as a newspaper reporter. Most of the media want to understand, right? They want to know. If you put up your fists and say, I'm not going to tell you, right? I'm gonna fight you off. That's a danger for us because we wind up in a spot where and we used to say it when I was a newspaper reporter, the pen is mightier, right? I still have the bigger megaphone. If you don't say anything, it doesn't keep me from telling my story. I'm still going to tell my story. It just won't have you in it, right? And you're going to miss that opportunity. So I'm not afraid to have those conversations with the broadcast media or the print media when they call. I'm very willing to kind of jump in and be very transparent as much as we're able to about the process and the things. And so far, so good. That's also true of citizens when they reach out across, maybe they phone call or if they reach out through, maybe an online portal to ask their questions. Just answer back with as much as you possibly can. And every time I've been met with understanding, they say, okay, I understand what you're doing. I understand your process. I didn't before, and thank you for taking the time to. And sometimes they say, I still don't agree with it. I think maybe there's another way to do it, but I understand what you're doing and I see the goal. Right. If you can explain that with most folks, they're going to appreciate the fact you took the time and second, meet you right where you are.
How about the mental health of your call takers, PTSD, all of this, with all these new technologies coming in, we're turning on the fire hose of incident data and video and everything, that is absolutely going to have. To say that it's not going to have an emotional impact is ignoring the problem. I don't think it's going to be devastating. I think there are ways of throttling it so it doesn't create a service-affecting impact. But
right.
What's your take on that, and how do you plan to protect your people? What are you doing to protect or identify people that are having problems today?
Sure. So multiple layers internally and externally. Internally, we've got peer support counselors who are members of our team who are trained up on recognizing those emergency incidents. There's a fine line in some of that, I think, because there are those that are not impacted, right? As we say, when you look at an incident, there's the rule of thirds. 30% are going to be not impacted at all, 30% very impacted, and 30% in the middle go, I don't know, I guess I'm all right. I don't feel one way or the other. And that's going to ebb and flow based on the incident, right? It can be you in this seat tomorrow, and then 2 weeks later you could be in a different role. So that's a constant line. Sometimes we have those peer support counselors that are very eager to say, you need help. No, I'm good. I'm fine. No, you don't understand. What you went through is very traumatic. You have to get this. So that part you go, okay, guys, calm down. Check with them. See if they're okay. Be willing to hear from them again 2 weeks from now if it goes differently. But accept the answer that says, no, I'm good. We've got good support with Metro Nashville through the government for both an employee assistance program and then also a similar employee assistance program specific to public safety that's offered through the police department. Our folks have access to both of those, right, for counseling that's specific to public safety or counseling outside if there's issues in the home life that they can take advantage of, which is pretty great. I think we are thus the tie, right? I'm suit and tie this morning.
What's up with that, dude? You came exactly. On video, and I'm like, excuse me, sir, could you go get Steve Martini, please?
I'm suit and tie today because we were having it was a committee meeting with the study and formulating committee with the Metro Nashville, which is a subset of the benefits board, the employee benefits board, because we're making the pitch to have our folks included in the public safety pension plan equal to police and fire to recognize that earlier retirement date. So it's timely that you mentioned, PASS or employee assistance program, because we're having that conversation now to say paratraumatic stress. And I didn't do the research. I pulled the research that was done from Northwestern Illinois and from Washington State that looks at the impact of this job on our professionals. And the long-term stress and that constant cortisol response into the bloodstream that says fight or flight, and we don't get a chance to chase the suspect, and we don't get a chance to haul the firefighter hose, right, to burn that off. So it just sits in our body, and we gain that 50 pounds that everybody gets the first year of dispatch because you're going, I just sit and I just have this constant glucose freak out that my body does in these stress response moments. That over time, over the multiple years, there's folks that say, I don't want to do this, right? You get to the 7-8 year mark and you're going, do I want to do this for another 30 years? Is this a plan? Or maybe you make a different decision if it were 20 years, right? If it was an earlier retirement option. So knowing that that's there, I'm like you. I'm not sure that the video, introduction of video is going to be so much that it causes our folks to sprint for the door. But I think it's going to add to that paratraumatic stress that says you're continuing to see this over time, right? It's a constant, continual thing. And it may take some of our folks to say, I don't want to see that again, or I don't want to see it for 9 more years or 10 more years. So that's all those things working together in the short term of identifying things through employee assistance, and then in the long term, recognizing the importance of including them in that public safety pension that's really relevant for the first responder.
Great words, Steve. Great words as always. It's you've always been somebody that I admired. You have a clean, cool head, very precise, decisive, thought process, and I'm really proud to see what you're doing down there in Nashville. And it's a pretty big responsibility. I mean, how many calls a year does your center take?
We take somewhere around 1.1 million calls a year, and we're a little bit under that this year, which has been very fortunate for me. I'll tell you that we're right at. I mean, we're maybe a couple of hundred calls over 1 million this year because they've just canceled everything. Right? You can't come to Nashville for anything, just like everywhere else. So that has slowed things down a little bit. And in my first year here, has really allowed us to double down on some of the things we're doing internally because we've got that lighter call volume. We know it. And we know 2021's coming and the vaccines are going to roll and people are going to get healthier and stuff's going to open up again. and it's going to be the Roaring '20s, right? People are going to get out of their houses.
When it does open up, I'm sure Nashville is planning a little bit of a party.
Yeah. Folks all over the nation are going to come back to, the bachelorette party of the capital of the world, right? And we're going to jump on our pedal taverns and woo all the way down Broadway, right? It's going to happen. So,
what is it with the bachelorette parties in Nashville? Last time I was down there for the conference, I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah, they are everywhere for sure, and it's great for the economy, and we're glad for it. But I have no idea how that shifted from Las Vegas to Nashville, but it has.
My God, I went down there, and I'm looking around, I'm going, did I make a mistake getting married in New Jersey?
Yeah, what a great place, right? Or at least have your party before you do in Nashville. How about that?
Yeah, it's like going to Home Depot. What a wide selection.
That is hilarious. That's funny.
Well, listen, my friend, I really appreciate you taking the time and talking with me about this stuff. This is critical stuff, and I'm really proud of where you've brought your career. I'm honored to have a little bit of a influence early on and stick you down the right path. Mr. Fletcher, I just want to let you know I listened to your podcasts. I never knew, what could come out of that. And look at you. That's funny. What's funny is I remember I obviously didn't know. I was listening to your podcast. So I didn't know what you looked like. So when you were in the building that day and somebody had mentioned, I got this group of people and this one, and one of them said, Mark Fletcher from Avaya. And I was like, Mark Fletcher from Avaya? Are you kidding me? This is like meeting Jose Canseco in the late 80s, right? I mean, this is right at the top of the moment, right? You go, oh my gosh, I only know the limited I know because of what Fletcher is talking about on his podcast. I have to get in there and tell him the impact. So that's funny, and I appreciate your friendship. You know what? It makes me feel so proud, but I feel stupid when you say that because, I can't be that important of a guy. I'm just some guy in New Jersey who's got an opinion. You worded this, Ginger. I don't know, right? Unbelievable. Well, Steve, look, thank you so much for doing what you do. Thank you to all your people who do what you do. You got a beautiful center down there. It's been several years since I've been in there, but now they know you're there. I'm coming down again, brother. Come on. Thanks, Fletch. Good talking to you. I'm looking forward. All right, you take care and you have a great day. Stay safe. All right, buddy. See you. Well, that wraps up another episode of Next Generation 911 FutureMakers. I really hope you enjoy these because I know I certainly do. We've got just a ton of exciting and interesting people in this industry, and I'm honored to be able to give them a platform so they can be heard. Next Gen 911 FutureMakers publishes every 2 weeks, and if you've got a suggestion for a topic or a guest, feel free to reach out to me at fletch@911inform.com. Remember, you can follow me on Twitter at Fletch911. Check out the rest of my blogs and podcasts at fletch.tv. And remember to like and subscribe and hit that bell below. That way you'll be immediately notified whenever a new podcast is published. Thanks again for joining us. We really appreciate it. Stay safe, and we'll catch you next time.